with musicians is, you could say staying too late at the party. You know, I think, and I know from my own personal perspective that all I cared about was the music. All I cared about was making it. I'm not even sure if that was ever going to be really a thing. You know, it was interesting having Tom Bukovac, aka Uncle Larry, pop into my chat the other day, and he said, don't worry, when you hit 100K, you're going to be just as miserable as you were at 10K. And I thought, man, wow, that's deep. That's deep, because it is true, man. You have little victories in life, and especially in the music business, there sometimes takes years to reach goals and to make things happen, whether it's playing goals or, career goals or anything like that. And man, the thrill of victory is a very short-lived thing. And, with the recent passing of the former My Chemical Romance drummer, it highlights something that's really kind of hits me pretty hard, man. And knowing that, basically a lot of us have stayed too late at the party. A lot of us, might be later in life and find ourselves alone. And man, I'm not alone right now, but that doesn't mean, man, something could happen. And I could find myself, living alone again. And God forbid that happens. I'm happy where I am and happy with my family. But man, I think we give up a lot as musicians. We give up a lot of our comfort and happiness to take on this career in the music business. And man, it is filled with more ups and downs and twists and turns than any line of work I can imagine. I'm sure there's other lines of work out there that are volatile and not easy to make it in. But man, being a musician, man, you can experience the most extreme highs and the most extreme lows known to man. And, in pursuit of our music, in pursuit of success, and I'm going to say this for the young cats out there, man, don't forget to fall in love. Don't forget to try and have a family or have somebody waiting for you at home, man. Because the reality is we're so singular in our vision. We're so focused on our goals. We're so focused on achieving the dream and thinking, once I have success, I'll get the trophy wife, or I'll, look at Janie Lane marrying the model Bobby Brown, the Star Search queen, and he probably, for a brief period of time, it was the happiest moment of his life. Man, it didn't end well for him. And he had his demons, and he had his things that he had to deal with that were probably drove him to the place where he is now, in the ground. And that is such a sad thing. His music still played. People still rock out when Cherry Pie comes on. I still think about that video, and I remember where I was in LA when that hit the scene, and knowing that those guys were sort of colleagues of our band in LA, and seeing them take off, and hearing about, learning things about the music business, learning that they brought in additional help to play the guitar solos and stuff on the record, and that's a tough lesson to hear. Not fully understanding it at the time, but now fully understanding it, having been in the producer's chair sometimes, and maybe somebody in the band's not cutting it in the studio, and you bring in somebody else. It happens more often than you would think. But, staying too long at the party, there's that. I think life is like a party. And in your career, it's like a party. But at times, you've got to know when to leave. You've got to know when to reach out to a hand and say, come on with me. We're going off into the night. We're going to go off and make something together. And man, it's sad hearing about this guy who was, living the dream, man. They call it living the dream. He was living the dream, touring the world, and, rocking out for thousands, and probably had girls clamoring for him every night. And then what ends up happening? He ends up dying alone somewhere in Tennessee and being deceased so long that his body was badly decomposed. That means he was laying there by himself for a long time. Man, that's an incredibly sad thing to think about. This is a huge lesson for everybody that watches this channel, man. If you've got somebody at home with you, and I know, life, marriage, and relationships can be very difficult. Some of you guys out there might prefer to be alone, and I can certainly understand that. But man, you need your friends. You need to keep, a circle of good people around you. And, life is not over now. Life can blossom into something really nice, man. So, I never thought I would go down this path, getting married and settling down and having a kid. And it might be the toughest gig that I've ever taken on, but it's a very rewarding gig, and it's one that pays off in dividends of love. There's no platinum albums or gold records for dads for, going out in the middle of the night and getting some medicine, or changing diapers at all hours of the night, or cooking breakfast, or doing all the things that us dads, do to take care of our family and take care of our kids. There's no platinum albums for that. There's no gold records. There should be. But there's none of those elusive things that we strive so hard for as musicians. We strive for these things, but man, when it's all said and done, that stuff is kind of meaningless. And I've seen when I worked in the pawn business, I saw people bringing in their old gold and platinum records, trying to get a couple bucks for them. The pawnbroker would mostly feel sorry for them and maybe loan them $30, for each. They're not real gold. They're not real platinum. It's just like the equivalent of a pat on the back in framed and put on the wall. That's all it really is. But once that music fades and it's not popular anymore, and you fade and you're gone from this earth, man, nobody will even really know. They'll just point at it, and maybe it'll end up in a garage sale somewhere. Somebody go, who's that? I wonder who that is. When we were selling our house in Tennessee, I had a nanny cam in my studio, in my little music room, so I could just make sure nobody walked off with a pedal or walked off with a guitar or whatever. And I would see the people come in my room and see the gold plaque and see the platinum plaque and the different stuff on the wall. And they'd all go, well, he must be a songwriter, or maybe he's a producer. Yeah, that's it. Maybe he was a producer. Oh, maybe he's a songwriter. I've never heard of him. Well, this one says Eric Church. Wow, that's cool. You know, they don't know. Nobody knows who I am, man. And, you know, a lot of times, if you're working for mid-level artists, people say, oh, we've never heard of that person. I had somebody in Canada leave a comment. Well, I'm in Canada, and we've never heard of Colt Ford. It's like, well, we toured all over Canada, playing every hockey arena, opening for Eric Church. So I would say there's probably about 100,000 people who have heard of said artists. But you know what? Man, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And when it's all said and done, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter at all, man. You know, what matters is whether you were a good person or not. People enjoyed being around you and maybe have a fond story to tell. And, you know, I hope and wish that this message can help you guys out there. You know, I know some of you guys are struggling out there. Life is tough. A lot of guys my age are going through health issues because we gave everything to the music, and we forsaked our health and our mental well-being and our physical well-being, and we did whatever it took. We did whatever it took so that we could play the music. And I know what that entails, man. That entails giving up some of the luxuries in life, things that we could have had, and just focusing on something, sometimes not eating the right foods, you know, or doing the right things, doing things that are detrimental to our health in the long run. Doing them because, man, I gotta get through this last set. I gotta get through this last set. We got one more set to play tonight. And man, a lot of you guys, it's sad to say, you know, some are okay with it. But I know, man, I know what it's like to be lonely, man. I know what it's like to be all alone and broke and not feeling like there's any hope. I want to tell you, man, there is always hope. And it's a new world. It's a different world than it was when we were all in our 20s and 30s and even 40s. It's a totally different world, but man, let me tell you something. There's probably somebody out there right now who's feeling the exact same way as you. And maybe it's somebody you know. Maybe it's somebody that you can reach out to locally and, you know, strike up a friendship. Or maybe it's somebody you can date. And maybe together you can create something great and have a home and enjoy the later years of your life. Because I know that drummer who got canned from My Chemical Romance. I know he was tormented by it. He placed all of his value, he placed everything on that gig. When that gig ended, man, he was tormented by it. And he had, I think, deep down, had hoped that they'd call him back one day. But he seemingly chose the wrong path to try and forget it. And I don't know how he passed, man, but 44 years old. That's way too young to be dying. But man, sometimes people can die of a broken heart. And I don't want anybody that watches this channel to feel that way. You know, so man, let's all work together. If you have a friend or somebody that's alone, or you've got, you know, somebody that you can reach out to from your past, and maybe you could strike up something. Maybe you'll realize that, you know, the things that separated you so long ago don't really separate you anymore. And maybe you can patch things up and maybe find some peace, find some love, and be able to continue on, man. Because you know what? Life continues long after you leave the stage for most of us. And I'd like everybody out there to be happy, to be content, and be fulfilled. And I wish you the best.